Hey, what's good everybody? My name's Jeeves and I'm here to bring you a new video. This video took a lot longer to make than my previous one, so I apologize for the delay. With that being said, today I wanted to talk about the zone superiority of all 22 zones in the Eastern Kingdoms through a classic WoW lens. This is the first video of a two-part series on zone superiority, with Kalimdor being the next one on my to-do list. Zone superiority is essentially which faction has a more dominant presence throughout a zone based on a combination of factors. These factors include questing hubs, flight paths, public transportation, connectivity to other dominant zones, and positioning of those first three factors. So why does zone superiority matter? It matters because it directly impacts how players level through, interact with, and ultimately how they connect with the zone in terms of memory and emotion. For example, if you're an Alliance player, you probably don't like the Barrens as much as the Horde players do and try to avoid going there unless you really have to. I hope my explanation is clear and sensible, but I know some people will surely disagree with some of my opinions in this video, so please let me know in the comments if you do and why you do. I'm going to go through the zones alphabetically, leaving out Blackrock Mountain since it's more of a subzone wedged between two zones. I would classify it as evenly contested anyways. But before we get into the video, I noticed that only a small percentage of my viewers are subscribed, so if you like my videos, please take a second to hit that subscribe button to help me out, and let's get on with the video. I wanted to start with a little background on the Eastern Kingdoms to set the stage for some of the zones we will be discussing. The Eastern Kingdoms is one of two continents for players to explore in Classic WoW, being situated on the east side of the map, hence the name. This continent is home to three Alliance races, Dwarves, Gnomes, and Humans, and one Horde race, the Forsaken, or the Undead. It's also where Arthas Menethil brought his deadly onslaught of the Scourge after he became the Lich King. Also lore related, the Dark Portal was opened here by Medivh, unleashing orcs into Azeroth. Like I said, I just wanted to give a very brief overview of the Eastern Kingdoms to set the stage, as I'm not the most knowledgeable on the lore of this game. And with that brief overview, we can now start our list of zones. The Altrich Mountains are snowy and beautiful, located right in the middle of the northern part of the Eastern Kingdoms. This zone is where Altrich Valley takes place and has PvP questing hubs for both factions. This zone isn't all snowy and mountainous. It contains many syndicate camps and hideouts as well as the Dalaran Crater. Since this zone has no flight paths or public transportation, its classification comes down to questing hubs and connectivity to dominant zones. I know this might be controversial, but I think Altrich Valley is a Horde Dominated zone for a couple of reasons. First, its proximity to Undercity, making it easier for the Horde to get there quickly. And second is that it's almost surrounded by other Horde Dominated zones. Spoiler alert, I guess. I will say that the Altrich Mountains are not as strongly Horde dominated as some of the other zones on this list, but that's all I have to say about it, so let's continue. The Arathy Highlands is a zone full of grassy plains and farmland, but don't let this peaceful demeanor fool you. This zone is full of dangerous enemies, like the Witherbark Trolls and the Boulderfist Ogres. The Arathy Highlands is also a PvP hub, as this zone is where Arathy Basin takes place. Unlike the Altrich Mountains, this zone has flight paths for both factions at Refuge Point and Hammerfall. These locations also serve as questing hubs for Arathy Basin quests and zone quests. The Arathy Highlands has no form of public transportation and is equal distance from Undercity and Ironforge. It should be no surprise to experienced players that the Arathy Highlands is a neutrally contested zone through and through. Moving on, we have the Badlands, a rocky desert full of mountainous canyons. This zone is home to Uldaman, a dungeon intended for players level 36 through 45, located at the very northern end of the zone. The Badlands is also home to creatures that can survive in rugged conditions such as coyotes, buzzards, and leopards. The Black Dragons also have a presence in the eastern part of the zone, adding to the dangers players can encounter here. Both factions have a questing hub, but only the Horde have a flight path at theirs. The Alliance have relatively easy access to the zone due to the flight path in Loch Medan being so close to the entrance of the Badlands, but the Horde also have many more quests to do here because their questing hub is an actual outpost compared to the Alliance one. These factors make this zone one of the most difficult to classify. I am classifying the Badlands as an evenly contested zone. Horde players know how annoying it is to get the Kargath flight path, and since the Badlands is a level 35 through 45 zone, most players don't have their mounts when they're eligible to start questing here. This means Horde players either must run to the Badlands from Arathy Highlands or Stranglethorn Veil. Running from STV at 35 would be crazy since you would have to run through the Burning Steppes and Searing Gorge. Either way, it's an annoying flight path to get for Horde players. Badlands is also surrounded by Alliance-dominated or evenly contested zones. More spoilers, by the way. These are the main reasons I can't bring myself to classify the Badlands as Horde-dominated. It's even in my eyes. But please let me know what you think. and let's keep going. The next zone is the Blasted Lands, a level 46 through 60 zone full of lore and dangerous enemies. This zone is home to the infamous Dark Portal used by Medivh to bring orcs into Azeroth from Draenor. The Dark Portal turned the Blasted Lands into a scorched wasteland with its powerful magic. So who dominates it? No one does. The Alliance do have Netherguard Keep with a flight path and some quests, but the Horde have a very close outpost and flight path in the Swampasaurus. There's just not enough going on in the zone to classify it as Alliance dominated in my opinion. It's also surrounded by zones of varying classification, highlighting the volatility of this region of the Eastern Kingdoms. This is an evenly contested zone. Another scorched wasteland is the Burning Steppes, which is the next zone on our list. The Burning Steppes is a level 50 through 60 zone controlled by the Dark Iron Dwarfs and their leader, Emperor Dagran Tharazan. The Dark Iron Dwarfs are constantly fighting the Blackrock Orcs and Firegut Ogres, who are also present in this zone. The last major group with a strong presence here is the Black Dragonflight, who control the Dark Iron Dwarves. In terms of zone superiority for players, both factions have outposts with flight paths and quests. Since this is an endgame zone, by the time players venture here they'll have their mounts and maybe some pre-raid bisque gear. This means it's not too hard of a zone to access for either faction. I will classify the Burning Steppes as evenly contested. Our next zone is also a level 50 to 60 zone, Deadwind Pass. A zone of evil magic and sparse wildlife, this zone truly feels dead and decrepit. Neither faction has an outpost here, and there's no flight path or questing hub. Deadwind Pass is more of a travel corridor in Classic WoW, with neither faction spending too much time here other than to explore or farm gold. It's also surrounded by zones of varying classification, even though it's technically within the reaches of the Kingdom of Stormwind. These factors make Deadwind Pass an evenly contested zone. Moving on to the mountains of Dunmoreau, the snowy starting zone for dwarves and gnomes and home to the coolest city in the game, Ironforge. Ironforge is the capital city for the dwarves and serves as a refuge for gnomes due to their capital, Gnomeregan, being overrun by irradiated gnomes and trogs. Gnomeregan is also located in Dunmoreau and is a level 26 through 36 dungeon that both factions have easy access to. The Horde get a teleport from Booty Base straight to Gnomeregan, and this is the only Horde presence in the whole zone. Dunmoreau is an Alliance-dominated zone, of course, and is also one of my favorite starting zones in the game due to the atmosphere and music. S-tier zone for sure. From the bright and snowy mountains of Dunmoreau, we move to the dark and gnarled forest of Duskwood, a level 20 to 30 zone south of Elwin Forest. Duskwood was once a beautiful forest much like Elwin, but the lost scythe of Elune cursed these lands, and the zone became filled with black fog and evil. This zone is trying to kill you around every corner. From the wolves and the spiders to the undead at Raven Hill Cemetery, this zone keeps players on their toes. I'm sure everyone remembers their first run-in with Stitches on the Road or Morladim in the cemetery. Duskwood is also home to one of the portals of the Emerald Dream, which can spawn world bosses that even challenge max level players in terms of difficulty. So who dominates this deadly zone? The Alliance do, because they're the only factions with an outpost and flight path here in Darkshire. The Horde have very few quests that bring them here, so there's barely any reason for them to be here at all, unless they're a level 60 undead rogue on their way to gank low levels in Red Ridge. That's all I have to say about Duskwood, so let's move on. The next zone on our list is one that Horde players do have plenty of reasons to go to, the Eastern Plaguelands. The Eastern Plaguelands is an endgame zone for levels 54 through 60 in the very northern tip of the Eastern Kingdoms. This zone has the strongest presence of the Scourge, which can be seen in the mobs, the sky, and the environment itself. Everything looks dead or dying, adding to the sense of danger here. The Eastern Plaguelands is home to Stratholme and Naxxramas, which are both instances related to the war with the Scourge. There is only one outpost in this zone, Light's Hope Chapel, which is controlled by the Argent Dawn. There is a flight path for both factions at Light's Hope, as well as many quests for them to complete throughout these dangerous lands. Undercity is the closest capital city to Eastern Plaguelands, but it doesn't matter for this zone in my opinion. Since the mobs here are so hostile and dangerous, I don't think either faction can dominate it very easily without their own dedicated outposts or public transportation. I am classifying the Eastern Plaguelands as an evenly contested zone. Our next zone is much less dangerous, but not without danger. Elwin Forest is the starting zone for humans and has their capital city, Stormwind. Stormwind is seen as the main capital city for all of the Alliance, as the humans are the de facto leaders of this faction. This peaceful looking forest does have many dangerous areas due to the Defias Brotherhood, gnolls led by Hogger, kobolds, and all those damn murlocs. From a love story to corpse recovery, this zone has a lot to offer for new adventurers. Not new Horde adventurers though, as there is no Horde presence here at all. Elwin Forest is dominated by the Alliance. Hillsbrad Foothills is our next zone, which is a level 20 through 31 zone filled with wildlife and scenic views. This zone will most likely be a hot topic in the comments once I give my classification. Hillsbrad is a PvP hotspot due to the close proximity of South Shore and Terran Mill, the Alliance and Horde strongholds. Each faction has a flight path and many quests to complete here, though the Horde has more quests than the Alliance does. This zone is in the shadow of Undercity, giving the Horde the advantage in terms of accessing the zone. The Alliance must run through the Arathy Highlands to get here, which has its own dangers to avoid, especially at level 20. Neither faction has public transportation here, but one of them has more dominated zones close by than the other. I'm classifying Hillsbrad Foothills as a Horde dominated zone. Now before you go and type an angry comment, hear me out. I think the zone is very close to being evenly contested, but the Horde have just enough of an edge to make it Horde dominated. Please don't think I'm arguing that the Horde are the overlords of Hillsbrad, just that they have a bit more influence in the zone than the Alliance do. Make sense? Cool, let's move on. Directly to the northeast of Hillsbrad are the Hinterlands, which looks exactly like Elwin Forest if you threw a bunch of trolls and mountains in it. The Hinterlands is level 40 through 50 zone and contains one of the 4 portals to the Emerald Dream, meaning world bosses can spawn here depending on the phase of the game. There are no dungeons or raids here, but both factions have outposts with flight paths on opposite sides of the zone. Both factions have plenty of quests to do here, my favorite being saving Sharpbeak on the Alliance side. Another fun fact about the Alliance stronghold here, Airy Peak, is that all Alliance Griffins are trained here by the Wildhammer clan of dwarves. Sadly, that fun fact is not enough to classify the Hinterlands as Alliance dominated. This is an evenly contested zone. Next we have the mountainous forest of Lochan, a level 10 to 20 zone in the middle of the Eastern Kingdoms. This zone is known for the giant loch in the middle of it, as well as the stone rot dam that holds its waters. The enemies found here include trogs, kobolds, and ogres. Lochan is to the east of Dunmoreau, and is where many dwarf and gnome players venture to afterwards. The Alliance outpost of Dulcimar serves as a questing hub and has a flight path. There is no Horde presence in this zone. I don't think it's surprising that I will be classifying Lochan as an Alliance-dominated zone. Red Ridge Mountains is up next, and boy oh boy is this a good zone. I love coming here while leveling a new character and always relish the time I get to spend here. This zone is for players level 15 to 25 and has an Alliance outpost and flight path. Some of the enemies found here are gnolls, murlocs, and blackrock orcs. Like our last zone, there is no Horde presence here, so this is an Alliance-dominated zone. Up next we have the little brother of the Burning Steppes, Searing Gorge. Little because this zone is for lower level players than the Burning Steppes, levels 43 to 56. These two zones have a lot of similarities like enemies and aesthetic. One of the main differences between these two zones is that not all Dark Iron Dwarves are hostile in the Searing Gorge. The neutral outpost here is home to the Thorian Brotherhood, a group of Dark Iron Dwarfs that have split from Dagran Tharazan. Both factions have a flight path here and multiple quests. This zone, like its big brother, is an evenly contested zone. After Searing Gorge is Silverpine Forest, the second zone that most undead players quest in. On the western coast of Lordaeron, Silverpine is known for its eerie atmosphere and haunted aesthetic. This zone fell to ruin after the Gilneans stopped caring for it after the Third War, leading to the Worgen infestation. Speaking of the Worgen infestation, Silverpine is home to Shadowfang Keep, one of the first dungeons players venture to on their journeys. In terms of zone superiority, Silverpine is in the backyard of Undercity and has no Alliance presence at all. The Horde have a quest hub and a flight path at the Sepulchre. It should be of no surprise that the Silverpine Forest is a textbook Horde-dominated zone. Moving way to the south, we find ourselves in Stranglethorn Veil, a lush and dangerous jungle teeming with diverse wildlife. Players often refer to this zone as STV. Stranglethorn Veil is home to the Gurabashi trolls and their empire, with Zul'Gurub being the main bastion for their tribe. This is a level 30 to 45 zone and is often one of the first zones where both factions quest alongside each other, making STV a hotspot for PvP encounters. The Alliance have a quest hub in the very northern end of the zone, whereas the Horde have one much closer to the center of it. The Alliance quest hub has no flight path in Classic. The Horde outpost has both a flight path and a Zeppelin tower that connects to the one in Orgrimmar. There is also a neutral questing hub in the southern tip of STV in Booty Bay, the only Steamweedle city in the Eastern Kingdoms. Both factions have a flight path in Booty Bay, and there's a boat that connects to Ratchet in the Barrens. I'm not talking about the Barrens until the next video, but we all know this boat favors Horde players more than the Alliance players. Stranglethorn has so many factors that contribute to zone superiority, and sadly for the Alliance players, most of those factors help the Horde dominate the zone. To the northeast of STV is a swamp full of sorrows. Yeah, sorry, that was dumb. I'm talking about the Swampasaurus, of course, a small marshland full of dangerous creatures and humanoids. This zone is for players level 35 to 45 and has a dungeon for players 45 to 50, the Temple of Atal Hakar. Many players call this dungeon Sunken Temple for short, and also because there's a quest that you can get from Feralus called the Sunken Temple that leads you to the temple. The Alliance have no outpost or questing hub here, while the Horde players have Stonard right in the middle of the zone. Stonard has many quests and a flight path. I don't have much to say about the Swampasaurus other than the fact that it's a Horde dominated zone. Speaking of the Horde, our next zone is the Undead starting zone, Tirisfal Glades, which is one of my favorite zones from a lore standpoint. Here is where Forsaken players begin their battle against the minions of the Lich King and the Scarlet Crusade, with Scarlet Monastery being in the northeast corner of the zone. Tirisfal is also home to the Undead capital, Undercity, a sprawling labyrinth of death and decay. You can hear Arthas killing his father in the throne room above Undercity by turning your ambience all the way up and muting everything else. Undercity has a flight path and there's a Zeppelin tower right outside that connects to Orgrimmar. There is no Alliance presence in Tirisfal Glades, meaning it's obviously a Horde-dominated zone. The next zone on our list is directly to the east of Tirisfal Glades, Western Plaguelands, which is basically the little brother of Eastern Plaguelands. The influence of the Scourge is not as strong here as it is in the Eastern Plaguelands, and the mobs are also not as strong, since the Western Plaguelands is a level 45 through 57 zone. It's also much smaller than the Eastern Plaguelands, with a big chunk of the zone being taken up by Daromir Lake, which surrounds Caer Daro. Speaking of Caer Daro, Skullomance can be found here. Skullomance is a level 50 to 60 dungeon with some good pre-raid best in slot pieces. The classification of the zone was rather difficult for a few reasons. The first being that the Horde have no flight path or questing hub here, since the Bulwark is technically in Tirisfal Glades. The second is how close the zone is to Undercity, meaning the Horde do have relatively easy access here. The last reason is that the Alliance do have a questing hub and flight path in the zone, but it's far from any other Alliance-dominated zone. Those reasons paired with the hostile and difficult nature of the zone itself make Western Plaguelands an evenly contested zone in my opinion, but just barely. Let me know how you feel about the Western Plaguelands in the comments. Our second to last zone in the Eastern Kingdoms is much easier to classify, Westfall. Westfall is a level 10 to 20 zone to the west of Elwin Forest. This arid land was taken by the Defias Brotherhood in response to Stormwind's poor treatment of them. Stormwind did not care about losing this territory, so now crime rules these lands. The Defias Stronghold can be found here, which also serves as a dungeon for Alliance players between the level of 10 and 20. I'm of course talking about the Dead Mines. Players also have the Gnolls and Murlocs in this zone to worry about, making Westfall a very dangerous zone for this level bracket. The Alliance have an outpost at Sentinel Hill, which has a flight path and serves as their questing hub. There is no Horde presence in this zone, meaning Westfall is dominated by the Alliance. And freaking finally, we have our last zone in the Eastern Kingdoms, Wetlands. This big wet swamp is directly north of Dunmoreau and Loch Medan, with the water from the loch draining into its streams. The creatures here are very dangerous. From the Crocolisks by the road to the Dragonmaw orcs, players have a lot to conquer here. Wetlands is also known for being the zone that low-level Alliance players must run through to either get to Ironforge or Darnassus depending on which way you're running. Many corpses line the roads of this zone as food for the Crocs. The only stronghold here is Menethil Harbor, an Alliance port city that can either take players to Darkshore or Duskwalla Marsh. Menethil has a flight path, is a questing hub, and has public transportation for Alliance players. These factors all make Wetlands an Alliance-dominated zone. And with that, we conclude our list today. Here is a map I made to visualize the zone superiority of every zone in the Eastern Kingdoms, so feel free to pause and yell at me in the comments if you wish. As you can see, even with the Eastern Kingdoms having 2 Alliance cities and only 1 Horde city, it's still basically even across the whole continent. I think the main reason for this is the top half of Eastern Kingdoms is either high-level, evenly contested zones or low-level Horde-dominated ones. Either way, these are the numbers for all you mathematicians and statisticians out there. Like I said earlier, this video took a very long time for me to make compared to my other ones, so any support is greatly appreciated. You can support me by either liking, sharing, commenting, or if you really enjoyed the video, subscribing. That's all I have for you today, and I'll see you again for Zone Superiority of Kalimdor. Have a good one. Peace.